Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured, why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say, I'm watching so-and-so show. And then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it. And that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 3, Episode 9, the penultimate episode of Season 3 and of the entire series of FX's Reservation Dogs, entitled Elora's Dad. I'm not going to explain the episode title here. There's sometimes where I'm just like, oh, this requires minimal explanation. This requires no explanation. I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I have some notes here, very little bare bones, but I'm going to talk off the top of my head mostly, just because there's not a ton to discuss here as far as like, this is what happened and this is what happened. It's like, that's not really needed here. Like, this episode was Elora meeting her father and having that experience, and we don't need to go over every single little detail of what happened. What I want to do is I want to kind of speak broadly about what I think this episode did really well, what I thought made it special, what I thought made it different from a lot of those other episodes of TV or of scenes in movies that have, an absent father returning. And the first thing that I want to start with here is I want to start with Ethan Hawke. I don't know if any of you guys knew that he was going to be on the show. Was that something that they announced and I just missed it? I don't know. I was completely floored to see Ethan Hawke here. I had no idea he was going to be on the show. And I was just over the moon surprised and pleased when I found out that he was going to be playing Elora's dad. As soon as the cashier or whatever in that hardware store said, whatever, Rick, I'm like, holy shit, he's going to be playing the father. He's going to be here for the whole rest of the episode. And we were better off for it. I mean, he was incredible. I mean, both of them were incredible. But I want to start with Ethan Hawke because I want to talk about how he played this character. Because, again, we've seen a lot. And I don't care how long you've been watching television or film. You've seen a lot of absent fathers returning scenes, moments, episodes, movies, whatever. You've seen it. And what I thought was interesting is that Ethan Hawke played this character with the perfect balance of, like, regret, acceptance, and trying to forge something new. Like his character came off almost pitiful because you kind of feel sorry for him. Like he never really truly made excuses for what he did, and if he thought that he even sounded like he was making an excuse, he came off like he immediately like apologetic and regretful, and immediately would take responsibility. Like in the one scene where him and Elora were walking to the bus stop to go pick up the kids, which just side note, no, I'll get to it a little bit later, but I do want to talk about, I guess, the scene in the diner and how Elora and Rick kind of approached their dynamic leaving that diner scene. I'll get to that in a little bit. But when they're walking to the bus stop and Rick's explaining kind of like what happened between him and Cookie, and he's like, yeah, we were so young and we were dumb and we weren't ready. And then he like stops himself and he's like, well, I was young. I was like, and that happened multiple times throughout their conversations where he would go, we were just doing this, or we were just doing that. And he would correct himself and go, no, I. And I like that correction because it's not necessary. It's a gesture. It's like, because they both were young and dumb. Whether he was responsible, he is responsible for leaving on them like that. But that doesn't make Cookie any less young or dumb. He makes it sound like they basically just partied together and she accidentally got pregnant with Elora. Neither one of them was being responsible at that time. But him refusing to even truthfully besmirch the name of her dead mother showed a level of maturity and growth in the character that you don't typically see in these kind of situations. And so I think that helped make him a little bit more endearing and helped make him a little bit more, you felt a little bit more sympathetic toward him because of not just that he owned it, but it was very much it had the added weight of the understanding that Cookie's dead. Like, it's different if Cookie's still alive and he's like, yeah, we're both young, and he just kind of like, tells the story, but from his perspective. But he's kind of like, I'm not even gonna speak to how she was in that regard or any contribution she might have made to the dissolving of our relationship, just because he's grown. It's so far in the past. He's moved on. There's no point to speak ill of a dad. And it's not, and I hesitate to even say speak ill because it's just a recalling of the events that happened. But, he didn't want to do anything to besmirch her name in that moment. And I thought that made him look kind of like somebody who you could understand is grown and could feel bad for them. You could tell he was nervous, he was ashamed, he was regretful. But then you could also tell that he's changed now. And that a lot of that nervousness, I thought, at first it just seemed like general nervousness, like, okay, hey, I'm here around this kid. But I think also a lot of that was him being nervous about her perceiving him to be the same person that he was back then when he knew that he was someone different. But then also he had, Ethan played this character so well. You could tell that he really wanted to convey that he was different, but that understood that if he leaned too heavy into that, it would kind of make it look like he was trying to downplay what he did. It's such a nuanced performance. I thought it was so good. You could see so much conflict in this guy between wanting to open his arms and say, come here, I'm different, I've changed, but then also wanting to own what he did. It was such a good performance. And you just keep seeing him plugging away at her, doing this the right way, giving her opportunities to hang around if she'd like, but never pressuring her, always giving her the out, you can go, whatever, even with the kids later at the bus stop, she's meeting up with some other people, not putting any pressure on her, giving her the opportunity, hey, if you want to hang, you can, if not, cool. He came off like a guy who just wanted to make things right. And if we never see, and I don't expect we will, there's only one episode left. If we never see in the show him, the character, or him and Elora together again, or him with the her with the family and the kids, I still feel satisfied and comfortable knowing that even though we only spent 30 or so minutes, give or take, with this pairing, I feel comfortable knowing that Elora's keeping her word. She's going to consistently go back and visit that side of her family, and she's going to forge a relationship with them, and it's going to be good because Rick's a new guy now, and he's I don't know. It makes me feel good inside that they took something that is consistently portrayed as what it is, which is terrible, but having someone who handles it, well, for one, having someone who just changes, because most of the time when you see that, the father comes back and then he makes the kid feel great for a weekend and then fucks off again. So not even just showing this growth, but just telling this story differently. I thought he was gonna bail again at some point. At first I thought he seems cool. Then at the moment where he needs the pen to fill out her financial aid stuff, and then she gets up to go get it, and he's looking at her, and I'm part of me is I feel like he's looking I can't believe this is happening. This is great. That's my daughter. I'm in love with her. She looks just like her mother. And then part of me was this motherfucker might turn around and run. But that's because I'm so jaded by that kind of shit happening with these kinds of stories all the time. And it was just nice to see a guy who, again, I can't relate to it, but I can sympathize with the fact that he made a mistake when he was, 20 years old, give or take. I don't know if they might have even said specifically. He made a mistake when he was 20 years old or whatever, and he owns that, but he regrets it. He wants an opportunity to make it right. He even he doesn't even shy away from all the time that he spent not seeing her. And he's like, yeah, I guess that kind of makes me look stupid. And, all this kind of stuff. Like, he owns all of his mistakes, but it's kind of like now that she's there, you could tell he really wants to make it right. And I like the fact that he handled it well, and you could see the shame, you could see the owning of the mistakes. It was such a great. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm rambling, but it was such a great performance from Ethan Hawke, and I knew once I saw that he was gonna be the father, I'm like, we're in for a fucking treat, and we sure as hell were. Actually, yeah, I did want to talk about this for a moment. That diner scene where they have that same one where I said that he wanted the pen and then she never got it. What I liked about that diner scene was that it was almost like they were reciting the things to one another that you're supposed to say in that situation, but grappling with the internal struggle of not actually feeling that way. Like, she came there with the intent of, I'm just going to go see this piece of shit. At least outwardly, she probably told herself, I'm going to go there and present this piece of shit with this document, and he better fucking sign it, and then I'm going to take off, and that'll show him. But deep down, she wanted something out of that interaction. And when she gets there, she does still play that role, being very standoffish. When she said, everything I need from you fits on this piece of paper, I said, jeez, man, again, deservedly so, but fuck, man, that was hardcore. But, she comes here, and it felt like she was playing a role almost, like, this is what I have to do. And he was kind of doing that too, and you could tell that she wanted to be more accepting, and he wanted to be more come to me and be accepting of me, which is why I loved at the very end the scene of them hugging, because I almost got emotional with it just because of the fact that that was what he wanted the whole time. Not necessarily specifically the hug itself, but that acceptance. And when he gets that and he says thank you, who gives a hug and says thank you? But that's a situation where she would have been well within her rights to say no, however respectfully or disrespectfully she chooses. And she almost is like outwardly relents, but at the same time, again, you could tell she wanted this too. And she came to this situation with this internal feeling of wanting to, I think, have a hole in her. Nope, I'm not even going to finish this. I'm not even going to finish it. Wanting to fill this empty space inside of her. And he was giving her that, but she kind of felt like she needed to play coy. There was so much going on here, man. And I really enjoyed this kind of tug of war between the two of them of what I should say versus what I want to say and do. And then real quick, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this episode, but I also want to talk about this episode and how it fits in with this kind of season-long theme of surrounding men and the ways in which we are shit. Men are a popular punching bag right now, right? And deservedly so. We got politicians out here trying to tell women what the fuck they can do with their bodies. We got men using their fame and their power to sexually assault women or manipulate them into sex. We've got their fucking go-to mass shootings. We are a pretty shit gender by and large. But what I think this show has done, and this episode specifically as well, it hasn't shied away from these flaws. It's shown all of these men, both the elders at the res and Rick in this episode. It's shown them exhibiting these flaws, owning them, and then correcting them. And yes, men are flawed, as are all people, but it's never. I don't think it's ever too late to own the mistakes that you made and make them right. Well, obviously, it can't become too late, but you guys know what I mean. You can't be like, I'm 70, it's too late, fuck it. As we see with Maximus last week. And like I said, we see that with the elders at the res and their inability to share their feelings or be honest and open up with one another. And then we see them own that aspect of themselves in the episode where they went fishing with Cheese. And they're passing the stick around, and they own this is a thing that we do, and we are so stubborn. And now look at us, we're all old, and Chabad is out there on his own and in a fucking mental institution, and it's because we didn't stay there, we didn't stick with him and support him, and they own all of this. And then obviously they waited too fucking long. It took Fixco's heart attack for for it to be reconciled. But we saw them then make things right last week and bury that shit. And it took too much. Willie Jack talking about Daniel and all, like, it shouldn't require that much, but still, they made it right. And same with Elora and Rick in this episode. They could have stayed in that same mindset they were in at the diner, and just like, Fixo could have died, and him and Maximus could have never reconciled. But, Maximus let his grudge go, and even though they won't be sharing many future moments like Elora and Rick probably will, excuse me, at least they got to have that one. And, another thing I liked about this episode, too, is that before it got into the heavy shit, it did hit us with some pretty good laughs at the beginning. Like, I like the Res Dogs embarrassing Elora at the college financial aid place. Like how she looks at the door and like Bear's got his like mouth on the door doing something ridiculous. I also noted again, and I've noted it all season. I said it even when I think it was like the second episode or something. I'm like, since when is like Bear and Jackie like texted each other like one-on-one? And then when Jackie makes a joke about snagging everybody at college, Bear's like, you going to college? And she's like, no, I'm just kidding. So it's like, I feel like there's something going on between them. I don't include Jackie when I say the Res Dogs because, again, she has not earned her place here, but whatever. Where was I? Oh, yeah. And then the financial aid guy, like, man, when Elora sees that picture of him with, like, the topless strippers or whatever, he's like, that ain't supposed to be there. And, like, turns it around. He's talking about anti-weekend and all this kind of shit. And then what was that? I don't know what 49 is, but maybe it's... I don't even want to guess what 49 is, but whatever that song dance he was doing, man, that financial aid dude was wild. But this kind of plays into like stereotypes and shit like that. When Elora's like, oh, I want to go into mental health, he's like, you sure you don't want to be a scientist or a tribal chief? Like the Res and their inability to break out of the norms and embrace change is something that we've seen it play all throughout this season. And there can be balance. You know what I'm saying? Accepting new things doesn't mean you have to let go of the other things. Like, you can still have tribal chiefs and Elora could still practice mental health. So, like, I thought it was interesting how he kind of put ideas in her head different from what she wanted to do. It still kind of fed into that this kind of theme of just being even when you're like that guy, you can still be a stubborn man. And then lastly, I thought it was funny when Rick caught Elora following him. And it's only because, like, she's followed him, but she's not doing the worst job in the world. But if you happen to be following somebody and that person just so happens to be smoking weed at the time, they're gonna notice that you're following them because they're paranoid because they're high. So it's like, if he hadn't stopped at the weed spot, she probably could have got away with following him and he wouldn't have noticed. But he's smoking weed. He's probably looking for the police everywhere. Like, he's already gonna be paranoid. So of course he's smoking just like that fucking Matthew McConaughey thing when he's like smoking real hard, like he's smoking like, what the fuck is that about me? Like, he's gonna notice. So, but yeah, I thought that was really funny. Great episode, man. I can't speak highly enough of what I thought Ethan Hawke did in this episode. What I thought, I'm sorry if Devery Jacobs, I don't know how to pronounce it, but the writing here, the fact that she wrote this episode, she directed one of the other ones, just her acting in this episode, like, what a talented, I can't even say young lady. I read she's like 30 or something like that. But what a talented woman. And it's a shame that it's taken, shows like Res Dogs or Dark Winds to kind of like help bring these native actors to the forefront. But like, man, like the cast of this show, the guy that plays Big and then plays, what's his name, Leap Horn on Dark Winds, which I just recently started watching. Like, the talent that we've lost out on not having that guy, Zach McClendon or something like that. The talent, like, not having been able to appreciate this guy for the last fucking decade is a shame. But so, again, I'm just really happy with everything I saw this week. Very happy with everything I've seen on the show. I can't wait for the finale. I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm sure it's going to be emotional. It's going to be moving. I'll see you guys next week for that. And until then, peace.